Out front tonight, Trump's face going on a coin called the Trump coin amid an unprecedented shutdown with threats of mass firings, federal funding pulled only from states that didn't vote for Trump. The U.S. government had an announcement today. Trump's treasurer put this out, posting a mock-up of a coin, writing, "No fake news here. These first drafts honoring America's 250th birthday in POTUS are real. Looking forward to sharing more soon once the obstructionist shutdown of the United States government is over." Well, I'm glad he clarified that was real, because you probably would think it was some sort of an AI joke. But I guess they say it. So look at the coin on the front. Trump's face. On the back, Trump fist in the air. Very similar, of course, to this image, right? Take a look at that, and then take a look at the other image of him in Butler, Pennsylvania. Okay. The text on the coin, fight, fight, fight. The MAGA chant on a coin for America. So, well, where should we start with this? I mean, I started by saying time was spent on this by releasing it today during this unprecedented shutdown. And as the coin makes a mockery of an American dollar, it joins Congress, where the Senate today once again failed to reopen the government. And just moments ago, Speaker Mike Johnson gave the House all of next week off. No votes, not even required to be in Washington. No effort to reopen the government, which, of course, would also mean seating the new Democratic Congresswoman, who is the vote that will force Johnson to hold a vote on releasing the Epstein files. I mean, is this all about Epstein? I mean, it makes no sense, though. That's the thing. So you start thinking about things like that. I mean, why is the government shut? Why is no one making any effort to reopen it? And the person who is usually out talking is again oddly silent. For a third day, Trump opting not to take reporter questions, other than taping a friendly interview with a pro-Trump outlet earlier this week and taping a video about Hamas tonight. We've seen very little of Trump. He has certainly not been taking questions. Well, the next time we're expected to see him in public, according to his schedule, is Sunday. And so what do we have of him this week? Well, we've got a little taste of the only interview he did this week that we saw with one of his favorite outlets, OAN.
You delivered historic tax cuts in under 6 months. You're the president of the United States. You have a gazillion things to do every day. You're trying to end wars. You're dealing with other countries. But I wanted to wonder if you could give us and the million other of couples here in the United States some parenting advice.
Stunned. Okay. Kristen Holmes is out front live outside the White House. Kristen, I had known what we had cut there, but somehow when I heard it, I heard it. Okay, there are a few cracks coming to light among Republicans regarding the shutdown strategy, right? I mean, we just talk about Mike Johnson giving them the week off from votes in Congress. I mean, that's pretty incredible. It seems no effort's being made, but I know you're learning more. What are your sources telling you?
Yeah, so we're hearing both public and private grumbling when it comes to this strategy among Republicans. Publicly, it's the people that you would expect, the people who always push back a little bit against President Trump. Murkowski, Collins, Tillis, all saying they think it's a bad idea to kind of have these punitive measures holding federal funding from blue cities. But I'm also starting to hear some cracks privately. And that's because they're not seeing the movement the way that they wanted to see it. They thought this would be over much faster. And you're hearing a lot of questions as to whether or not this is a political gamble that might not actually pay off. There's a lot of concerns about this idea of mass layoffs. Remember, we were hearing from White House officials those could start as early as today. No word on that yet. Is that because we're starting to hear this pushback from Republicans? Still unclear, but there's a lot of Republicans who don't think that's a good idea, both legally and for their own constituents, that could be a problem. So you're starting to hear these tiny cracks among Republicans who are questioning whether or not the White House is playing this the right way. Now, to be clear, nobody is blinking right now. The House not in session. Nobody is talking about any kind of shift or movement, but they are wondering if this is the best political strategy. And one thing to point out is historically in the past, this kind of a shutdown, usually the blame would fall on the Democrats. That's because the Democrats are the ones who are demanding something. But if you look at that new polling that's coming out and that preliminary polling that's coming out, it's really showing that both sides are equally at blame. And that is risky for Republicans when they see those preliminary numbers, because that's not what they were expecting, Aaron.
All right, it was important, but they were expecting obviously very different. All right, Kristen, thank you very much. And get better, Kristen. You do sound hoarse, and she's out there working as always, but get better. All right, Margaret Hoover, John Avlon, Mondaire Jones, thanks very much to all of you. Where to start here? I guess let's start with Trump has not been present the way he usually is, taking reporter questions. He took those questions.
Yeah.
But we get the announcement from Treasury that they're going to do this special coin with Trump on it. So what's happening here?
It's a total abdication of leadership, and it shows how much we've normalized insanity around shutdowns. But also, it's hard to put into words just how insane this is to float, especially during a shutdown.
This is not normal.
Not remotely normal. First of all, we have an unwritten rule in America. You don't put living people on coins.
Actually, it's a federal law.
Okay, thanks for that. And thanks for that, Mark. And there's a really good reason for that. This is just a codification of the kind of cult of personality that's going on. And just for Republicans who say, oh, it's Trump, imagine if Barack Obama and Democrats tried to put him on a coin when he was president. They'd be freaking out. And that's because it's so unlittle D Democratic, it's so unlittle R Republican, and it's really an insult, especially at this time when our government is not functioning and makes us look like a laughingstock in the eyes of the world.
What they did is they mocked this up to clearly, work over his, sense of, self-grandiosity, which really doesn't need any encouragement. But this is a 1866 law. You can go to 31 U.S. Federal Code 5112 to cite it. And literally no living president can be on a coin. You have to have an act of Congress to make that coin. But, given how much of a subsidiary the U.S. Congress has been of Trump Inc.
It's a good word there.
Highly
Subsidiary
possible.
of Trump Inc.
It's highly possible they would go ahead
tonight.
and make the coin for the president, even though they're shut down. Should Trump be out front negotiating? Look, at the end of the day, when you're the president and it's a shutdown on your watch, you end up taking responsibility. Normal people, not us, normal people know like 2 or 3 people in the government. And they know the president, they know Trump. If the government doesn't work week after week after week, they blame the people they know in the government. That's why, actually, this isn't looking great for Republicans. And the more Trump is out front and the more it's not happening, the more it's not going to get fixed, and he will be blamed.
And so do you see something worrisome in those numbers that Kristen was just talking about?
I'm not sure which polling she was referring to, but
Yeah.
I think I've seen the same thing that Margaret has seen, and that shows that decisively Republicans are being blamed by the American people over Democrats for this. And they understand that something's not normal about what we've been experiencing since January 20th of this year. And that if Democrats are going to pick this fight to make sure that the health insurance premiums of Americans don't double or triple because of the expiration of these tax credits that Republicans are trying to force into existence, then that's a fight worth having. And privately, what has been deeply reported anyway, is that there are at least some Republicans in Congress who view this to be a vulnerability and who would be willing to vote to extend these tax credits, except they're also not standing up to this president in the way that you would think an independently elected, sort of free-thinking person with some integrity would be willing to do.
So John, the president has the few things he said. He did the OAN interview. He also posted a video of the guy he has, sort of put in charge of this, Russ Vought. And in this, Russ Vought is the Grim Reaper. And Trump says, well, they're going to lay off all these people in the shutdown. I mean, that's what Russ Vought has said, and he's been very clear about that. So the White House press secretary, Leavitt, gets asked about this today. Here's what she said.
The president likes to have a little fun every now and then, and I think both things can be true at the same time. The Democrats have given the administration this opportunity, and we don't like laying people off. Nobody takes joy in that around here.
Except for he is.
Except he is. Yeah. And look, Trump is memeing, not leading. But that's consistent with who he is. His press secretary today just basically said he's more interested in being king of the trolls than he is president of all the people. And that's a fundamental problem. And that's what we're facing right now.
I mean, Margaret, that video, the Grim Reaper, right, coming with this, as they have said, they want layoffs. I mean, Project 2025 at its core is a massive downsizing of the federal workforce.
Right.
Russ Vought is the architect of that. Russ Vought is the architect of this.
Yeah, look, the former conservative in me will acknowledge that the federal government could be trimmer, right? It is, it absolutely could be more efficient. It could be trimmer. And yet, there's a way to do it. There's a way to do it, which is in the light of day with a broad sort of bipartisan collaboration on both sides. I mean, these are all words and hopes and aspirations of a former time, but this is the way we want our government to work. And we aspire to transparency and representation of the people, that we do this in the light of day, not in the dark of night with a grim reaper going around and just axing people's jobs. I mean, these are livelihoods, unfortunately.
Also, like, to the extent anyone still cares about the rule of law in this country, and certainly not this administration, it would be illegal to fire tens of thousands of federal workers during a shutdown. Like, there is no statutory or constitutional provision that gives the administration the ability to do this. Now, what the Supreme Court will allow once something like that were to get litigated under the so-called unitary executive theory is for now beside the point. But like, there are memos at the Department of Justice that have been written over time immemorial that speak to this very issue, and he has no ability to do this within the rule of law.
Been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.